Hello everybody, hello world. Looks like I'm unemployed for a while, so I get to read some poems. Now I want to read this poem by Charles Castle from his book, On the Beach of Borrowed Time. And I will put a link to that book if you're interested in getting it. This is his poem, How Shall We Tell Them? How shall we tell them? How shall we tell the stories of our lives? Impulsively as May's flower moon, or cool and thoughtfully as ice crystals gleaming in December's sun. Tell them as hot summers flooded with sound, crickets, cicadas, tree frogs, hoot owls, loons, and whippoorwills, as night voices catching fireflies. Tell them as the sounds of winter after storms, the rumble of snowplows before dawn, or walking on snow with a crust of ice. Rubber boots, laces frozen, breaking through. Let them hear the scrape of snow shovels, the metal strike of skate blades on pond ice, the crystalline chimes of long icicles falling from the eaves of barns. How will memories appear? Out of dark water, dark as snapping turtles or as shadows of ancient catfish. Or under heavy snow melting on farm fields as rusted tractors, old sedans. Or at the end of gravel roads, discarded and dumped down hillsides as old washing machines or broken cobalt blue and white china dishes. What shall winter say? What shall spring imply? That we were overcome by the love of summer and fell from it reluctantly like the leaves of autumn. How should we tell our stories? How far will we have to go until we are lost? Beyond backyards with swing sets and tree forts, on back roads and backwoods, back in hidden places where only children set free on bicycles can discover overgrown orchards where rock walls with fieldstones reveal leaf-covered springs, tangles where deer bed down, places with tufts of fur on branches, following game trails waist deep through reeds and grasses, as far back as grandfathers must reach, through the ether of memory to touch the heart of a child. What shall we tell them? By Charles Castle. I wanted to say 3 things, maybe a couple more things, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. About this poem. Questions. This poem has got a lot of questions in it. It's titled a question. What shall we tell them? There's no question mark on it, but you know, it's a question. And it starts off with 3 questions at the very beginning. How shall we tell the stories of our lives? The next 2 questions, in my mind, really aren't questions. They're in question format, but impulsively as Mayflower's moon, or cool and thoughtfully as ice crystals gleaming in December's sun. To me, those second 2 are more information giving, tone setting. It almost sounds like this is something you do in a workshop. With that first question, how should we tell the stories of our lives? So if you're looking for a subject to write a poem about, consider how shall we tell the stories of our lives? What Charles does with this is very interesting, especially regarding the questions. There's a lot of lines in here that could be considered questions, but there are actual questions in here. And the way this poem is structured is, we have this first stanza with a number of questions, then we have a stanza, then we have another question, The second question is, how will memories appear? Then we have another stanza. Then we have another question, actually two. What will winter say? What will spring imply? Then we have another short stanza. Then we have more questions. How shall we tell our stories? How far will we have to go? Which is, I think, the most interesting question of all of them. How far will we have to go? How far will we have to go to tell the story of our lives? It's very interesting. I just find that to be very evocative, that question itself. One thing that I did notice, I'm going to talk about the second thing here. One thing that I did notice, there's no people in this. You see the effects of people, but there's no people. It's not like a lot of people would write a poem like this and be like, well, you know, Dad was a drunk and Mom was an angel, or my friend Bob from elementary school would ski down a hill and end up in a lake, you know, whatever it might be. But in this, there are no people. The second and third question, impulsively in May's flower moon, or cool and thoughtfully as ice crystals gleaming in the December sun. This is not a poem about people. This is a poem about time, I think. Particularly the times of our memories, and what elements of that do we think about or communicate when we're talking about memories. So it's a very interesting take on this question of how shall we tell the story of our lives? Because we're doing it without the people in our lives. We're telling about the times of our lives. And the information that we're giving about this is not information about, well, we talk in that first stanza, or the second stanza, however you want to count it, we talk about sounds. This is about hot summers flooded with sounds, tree frogs and hoot owls and this other kinds of stuff. The sounds of winter storms, rumble of snow plows, scrape of snow shovels. And then how will memories appear? Out of deep water, or under heavy snow, or at the end of gravel roads. So, we're not going to answer the question directly. And then what will winter say? How will we tell the stories? How far will we go? How far will we go until we are lost? I love that. Two lines together, wonderful. Just talk about the ending here for a minute. Just the last stanza of this is a line by itself. As far back as grandfathers must reach through the ether of memory to touch the heart of a child. Let me read that again. As far back, so until we are lost. So how far we have to go until we are lost? Then beyond backyards with swing sets and more details. As far back as grandfathers must reach through the ether of memory, the ether of memory, to touch the heart of a child. You can read this line two different ways, I think, that make sense. One is, this is a grandfather puzzling, what shall I tell them to touch the heart of a grandchild? That would be one way of looking at it. The other way to look at it is, I have to reach as far back as grandfathers must reach through the ether of memory to touch the heart of a child, of the grandfather as a child, his own inner child, the memory of himself as a child. That would be another way of looking at it. And I think both of them are probably pretty valid. thought it was interesting that way that ended like that. I wanted to point out two other things that I just really admire about this poem. The first is in that second to last stanza, the repetition of the word back. How far how far will we have to go? Stanza. Until we are lost. There's an ellipsis here. So this follows on. Until we are lost, beyond backyards with swing sets and tree forts, on back roads and backwoods, back in hidden places where only children free on bicycles can discover overgrown orchards. This paragraph, generally, this poem doesn't have very many much punctuation anyway, but this last one is a series of enjambed, where the line kind of continues without the thought ending. Just kind of crowded together images. Beyond backyards has a line. There's the line end. With swing sets and tree forts on back roads and backwoods, back in hidden places where only children set free on bicycles can discover overgrown orchards, where rock walls with fieldstones reveal leaf-covered springs, tangles where deer bed down, places with tufts of fur on branches, following game trails waist deep through reeds and grasses. Wonderful. But I like that series of back. Beyond backyards with swing sets and tree forts, on back roads, in backwoods, back in hidden places. Just that repetition of that word makes it so evocative. And then finally on this, my favorite line on this is what will spring imply? And the line is that we were overcome by the love of summer and fell from it reluctantly like the leaves of autumn. I like summer. I do. I think summer is wonderful. And the idea that we fell from it reluctantly, summer ends reluctantly. We fall from it reluctantly like the leaves of autumn. It fell like the leaves fall from the tree, reluctantly like the leaves of autumn. Just a wonderful image on that. Anyway, thanks for watching if you watch this whole thing, and we'll see you next time I do this. Whatever.